are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast, episode 191 of the College Loop Podcast. I am Dylan Larck at BoyTank on Twitter. Here with Mr. Harrison Tarr. Tarr, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, no complaints on my end. Happy Masters Sunday to those who celebrate. I'm double-checking my audio real quick, making sure it's correct. It is. Scotty Scheffler is just moments away from securing his second green jacket. So I've done nothing but sit on my couch and watch golf since 10 o'clock this morning, and pretty much have done nothing but play and or watch all weekend. So very honestly an ideal weekend if I had to draw it up that way. So if you hear me scream in a second, it's because I'm very, very excited that Scotty's going to run off the course and go watch his child be born. That's lit.
I will say,
it's great to see people live out your dreams.
Well, I will say it does seem like you've been watching the Masters since 10 o'clock. About 5 days ago, I think you've been watching it all. Every single Snapchat I've gotten from you this week has been right in front of the TV with golf on it.
Yes,
so.
yes, correct. I have been managing my time at work and somehow still having a super productive week and still watching the Masters. I consider that talent. Some other people consider that irresponsible. That's up to you guys to determine.
I will say it looks like looking at our Masters thing, I came in a whopping 10th place. I will not specify how many people are in.
Yeah, unimportant. You know, there's 10.
It's over 10. I will say I didn't come in last.
Is it 11? I can't remember.
It's 11.
Yeah, you didn't come in dead last. Congratulations.
But I will say Auburn news. Do you want to say a quick shout out to CJ Uzama for getting signed to the Philadelphia Eagles? I really wish he would have gone to a better fan base, but of course, he is already well known of the rabid fan bases of the sports. And also in other football news, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, which is basketball, shout out Coach Jay and Bruce Pearl. Alvin A-Train Henderson has committed to Penn State. He did that a few days ago. Chose Penn State over Auburn. It was something that probably whenever someone has the last visit before a commitment date, you usually feel like that school is going to get it. I was not as confident in Alvin Henderson to Auburn whenever the date actually came around. And in other recruiting news, quarterback Husan Longstreet chose Texas A&M this morning over Auburn and a few other schools. But it does seem that the Tigers do have their eyes on one of the top quarterbacks in the class 2025 in Juju Lewis, who is a current USC Trojan commit, but the Auburn's are swinging a top 5 quarterback, especially one who is at the highest ranked as the number 2 quarterback in the class. That'd be just massive.
Icing on the cake.
And
this recruiting class for Friesen Company, we're still I guess we're midway. I'll say we're at the midway point in the 25 recruiting cycle. That's really where we're at right now. Obviously, you've got Big Cat Weekend coming up over the summer and a number of opportunities to get guys on campus. But I think that Friesen Company are acting on their promise here. They know they're going to be judged on how much they deliver on this class. So specifically after losing to New Mexico State last year and it really exposing that there were a number of instances that in the Music City Bowl where the staff was just not as focused on playing ball as they were on recruiting ball. That one really, really made everybody very, very critical of this 2025 class. So, if you're able to pull Juju Lewis, great. That feels like a step in the right direction. Your quarterback room's already it's always going to be a mess. That's at every school. There's just so many kids that want to play quarterback in the world. So I'm excited to see where this one shapes up.
Yeah, especially with the transfer portal opening up on Tuesday, and we'll have a full breakdown of who we think is going to enter the portal on the next episode. But with that opening up, you do
Charlie Scheffler is your 2024 Masters champion. If it's official, folks, he's the freaking GOAT. He has done it again. That's all. I'm sorry. I'm just so freaking excited for this guy. That was amazing. What a round! Shot a 68 on Sunday at the Masters. What a dude. Okay, sorry. We can go back in. He was also wearing orange and blue today, so I'm bringing this back into Auburn.
All right, sweet.
He was wearing it was a nice little War Eagle fit. That's how Abby described it.
Yeah, with the portal opening up, you do expect maybe one quarterback to leave. No spoiler alert on who that might be, but I'm sure everyone might know who is probably the favorite to enter the portal out of this quarterback class. And, of course, there are a lot of haters that might probably want to be Peyton Thorne. It will not be Peyton Thorne. Shocker there. But if you were to pull a top 5 quarterback in the class, that'd just be next level as Harrison Tarr decides to text in the group chat. right there. So let me go ahead and put that on Do Not Disturb. But
hey, it's your fault for not being on Do Not Disturb. I was just texting the fantasy group chat telling everybody the chef was cooking.
Yeah, but I will say to Husan Longstreet's commitment, I just see a lot of people kind of attack Auburn, saying a huge whiff by the Tigers. I gotta be honest, as close as I do follow with recruiting, Longstreet was never on my radar. I think it was someone that Auburn was recruiting pretty heavily, but as far as I've been concerned, Juju Lewis has been the guy that Hugh Freeze really wanted out of this class ever since. I think ever since he turned away from Antoine Hill. But right now he does have Juju Lewis up for a visit on June 14th. So hopefully that visit goes well, and he currently is a USC commit. So it'd be a huge swing in the right direction if Auburn were to flip a guy from another quarterback whisperer, Lincoln Riley, to, of course, Auburn Alabama.
No, Big Ten powerhouse USC.
I keep forgetting that's going to happen next year. That's crazy.
Yeah, just go ahead and get it through your skull. It's happening.
But it'd be a huge, but more recruiting news to come. There are plenty of visits, plenty of commitment days coming up. We are in the meat and potatoes of the 2025 recruiting class.
I would not be shocked if you had a countdown on your phone until Big Cat Weekend. I know that you're just licking your chops waiting for that to happen. I fear for your sleep schedule that weekend, actually.
Yeah, I might actually have to go. Just let me go to the pool parties and everything, and then we just see and just kind of wait around, wait and see who wants to commit next.
Dylan's now been hit with level 1 NCAA recruiting violations. I digress. We're going to move into speaking of recruiting, and let's go talk hardwood for a second here, Dylan. I'm going to break up between men's and women's basketball. That's when I'll plug everything for everybody that's hanging out with us here on the stream. By the way, if you guys are hanging out on the stream, make sure to throw us your comments, questions, concerns, strongly held beliefs, and demands. Now's your time. Now's your time for us to react live to you guys. Have that kind of discourse is what I look forward to the most every time we have one of these Sunday live streams. So, yeah, I got a little distracted there, but now I am locked in until we see the green jacket pulled out in my peripheral. But let's jump into Auburn basketball here. So you've got a handful of guards that decide that they're no longer going to play. And for the Tigers, they're going to enter the transfer portal. That being, of course, Trey Donaldson, Aiden Holloway, Katie Johnson. Trey Donaldson still not given up on yet. Not entirely sure that he will not still remain an Auburn Tiger. I don't know that the door is that wide open, Dylan. I just don't think it's slammed, and I don't think it's deadbolted metaphorically. So I think that there's still a world in which Trey Donaldson plays a third season with the Auburn Tigers, but Bruce Pearl needed to go and get some help in that backcourt, go get some seasoned, experienced, talented help in that backcourt. And where better to turn to it than Furman, a team that sent Virginia packing just a year ago, and turned to the young man who was responsible to this, and JP Pegues. He announced his commitment, has already inked his NLI. Yes, sorry, NLI and NIL. We really should have picked a different acronym here, or LOI. These are all pretty damn close. But he's already inked his NLI or OLI, whatever you want to call it.
I think LOI is one that I've seen a lot of.
LOI, whatever. His letter of intent to come to the Tigers. He brings a lot to the table, Dylan. This is a guy that I'm very, very excited to see how he plugs in at 6'1", 185, a little bit taller guard. Just this past year alone, averaging 18.4 per game, 4.3 rebounds, 4.8 assists, shooting 42% from the field, and the guy is a career 35.8 three-point shooter. This guy can knock down shots. You pair him with Denver Jones in the backcourt, and you throw in the new pieces that we all know and are very excited to see joining the squad. I'm very, very curious now, and excuse me, I'm sorry, very, very anxious to see how this backcourt pans out, because now here's the flip side of what I mentioned about Trey Donaldson before, Dylan. Those minutes are limited for anyone else that's added, because I think you take up the majority of your rotation here. JP Pegues played 34.1 minutes per game last year. Now, we know at Auburn that's just not going to happen. That's just not the formula under Bruce Pearl. But I do think that there's enough rotational work now that this guy can really be, and JP Pegues can be an electric factory and in the jungle and be a great piece to this team. I'm excited.
Yeah, and I have a quote from JP, and he said, quote, "I want to win a national championship with this team. I want to make history here and do things that haven't been done before." And went on to say, "I chose Auburn because of the conviction the coaching staff has had for me. I could feel the family environment on my visit, and that's what's important to me. That's what has been important to me." So yeah, that's JP Pegues. And again, I think it's exactly what Auburn needs: a tall guard who can shoot the rock, a veteran guard at that. But I think it's going to mesh very well with a Denver Jones, and of course Dylan Cardwell, who we'll talk about in a little bit, who has announced his return. Chad Baker-Mazara, Chaney Johnson.
And Chad Baker-Mazara.
I was getting there. But a huge pickup because, I mean, those 18 points a game were absolutely ridiculous. I mean, looking at his last 5 games that he played, 22 points, 28 points, 19 points, 35 points, and 20 points in those games. And he's just exactly what Auburn's going to need to go in the next year because I think what you had with Trey Donaldson and Aiden Holloway would have worked had they stayed and developed over a few more years. But ultimately, it seemed as if they were battling it out for minutes for the entire time. It's like, all right, well, we're going to see who gets these minutes, who's going to get those minutes. It just didn't mesh well because you got good Aiden Holloway games and you didn't get good Trey Donaldson games. And you got good Trey Donaldson games and you got bad Aiden Holloway games. It was never like a mix of both of them being good. I think you've had a mix of both of them being bad before, but I don't think you've ever had a mix of both of them coming in and doing that very well. So I think when you get with Furman, which is JP McGee's not when you get with Furman, you're going to get a guy who, honestly, if Auburn's to get another guard, get another point guard in the transfer portal, I would not be surprised if Todd Pettiford kind of had a trio of guards with Denver, JP, and of course Tahad all rotating out of the one spot and of course the 2 spot. So you have 2 in, 1 on the bench. Then you put another one in, take 1 off, and kind of just pick and choose and see who's playing well at that moment in time. Because, I mean, I will go ahead and say it does look like Trey Donaldson does have a crystal ball in the transfer portal to Michigan.
I think that's plausible. No, look, I'm not leaning at Trey returning. I'm just not closing the door yet. I'm not heard enough whispers. Now, JP McGee's changes things a lot. Especially you mentioned there are two young men that are going to be getting a lot of minutes. Obviously, not both in the backcourt, but Tahad Pettiford and Ja'Kai Howard coming in. That this could wind up being just a kind of a platoon swap via the transfer portal. And I think that Auburn adds another piece, at least 1, probably 2, if we hear word that Janai Broom's entering the NBA draft. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. I'm sure that's naturally or organically is going to come up here in just a moment here Dylan. But I'm with you. I see that. But like you mentioned, there is room for one more piece. I don't know that it's a 20-minute plus piece. I'm not entirely sure. To be completely transparent with you, I think this is more of a Zep Jasper role. And this is one of those things that you get a guy that can play really, really tight defense that you can put in and spells where the offense is taking care of itself, but you kind of need to shut down and capitalize on the fact that you're going on a little bit of a run, get a guy subbed in that can go lock down, handle the ball, and just not let the other team get past him while the rest of the group around him takes care of business in terms of putting points up. This group is quickly becoming a very, very interesting mixture of experience versus not experience versus newcomers versus played in other conferences at other levels. This is one of the most diverse in terms of background, basketball background teams that we are going to have seen from Bruce Pearl in quite some time. And yes, I am including last year. It's very interesting to me to see how this group's going to gel. I like where they're at in the guard position, whether you look at the 1-2 or if you want to play small 3, whatever that looks like, right? I feel good about this right now. And I do think you need another piece, but I don't think you need to go after someone flashy. I think you maybe go grab someone, you stay with the tall guard mantra. I think that's probably no, I'm not just asking, I'm saying I think that's where Auburn's building now is going with the average height in terms of trying to play really big down low and really small up front. I'll be very interested. I like the direction they're headed. I think the Bruce Pearl's got a clear vision, and you got to look around at what's working in the rest of the league. Being short's not going to help. Look, I appreciate Aiden Holloway. I appreciate Trey Donaldson. Trey's not the biggest guy in the world. Plays a little bigger than he is, a lot bigger than he is, but Aiden Holloway is not a big dude. You got to adapt with the signs of the times and be able to adjust your roster appropriately. Unfortunately, the reality of the matter is you have to be tall, genetically tall, to be good at basketball. That is just the way that the world works. Y'all can go ahead and miss me with the AI and Isaiah Thomas comments. Cool, great. There are exceptions to every rule. Also, Isaiah Thomas is not a Hall of Famer, so it does not matter. He probably will be, but like,
which Isaiah Thomas talking about the Pistons,
which I'm talking about most notably the Celtics. But yeah,
no, he's not.
Yeah, Nate Robinson was cool for a second there, but then everyone's like, "You're short, by the way." Which, by the way, wishing him best health. Read that the other day. That's not super great. If anybody has a kidney, let him know. He was given like 2 years to live.
Oh.
Yeah, super not cool. But that went off the rails for a second there. Auburn adapting to the height is really the message here, is making sure that you have like that continuity and can hang with some programs that are going to be really competitive this year, and they're going to be really tall. So, speaking of height, there is a giant tower of Auburn that made the most unsurprising decision and announcement, arguably ever. I knew as soon as he sat down in front, as soon as the video was released and I saw it was in front of Sanford Hall, I was like, oh, he's coming back.
Well, I think the caption was, "I believe in Auburn and love it." I think that was the caption. So I was like, "Oh, yeah."
I didn't even read the caption. Like, as soon as I saw the video, I was like, oh, here's the Cardwell return video. Dylan Cardwell has announced that he's going to return for his 19th year at Auburn. It's only his 5th somehow. It does feel like forever. He will be manning down and the anchor of that front court until we hear otherwise. Now, there's a lot of conversation there. We'll get to that in a second here, Dylan. But I'm just going to read something off real quick about Dylan Cardwell. This young man has the opportunity to do something that was done earlier this year by Jalen Williams. If Auburn were to win 26 or more games this year, I think it's 26. Is it 26 or 24? I think it's 26. Matter of fact, I'm positive it's 26. He will become the winningest player in Auburn basketball history, which is funny that could happen and just wild that could happen in back-to-back years. Shows where Bruce Pearl has this program. He is going to come back as a guy that averages. Well, where's his career? Hold on, I had his career right in front of me.
I have it right in front of me if you need it.
I do. I got it right here. 4 points per game on average. He brings down rebounds, 3.5 rebounds a game. I got for whatever reason my eyes just like deceived me there. And 1.2 blocks per game. He shoots 71.3% from the field. It's a pretty good stat when you be able to put up layups and throw down dunks. That helps a lot. He is a career 37.5% 3-point shooter. I would like to put that out there. Just so everyone knows that Dylan Cardwell is a deep threat. And he's abysmal from the free throw line at 52% on his career. But that's kind of, you take the good with the bad with the center like that. Dylan,
I don't think it's really fair to use his career stats because last year Dylan Cardwell was a very integral part of the team. Because if you look at his stats throughout the entire throughout his career, improvement.
Yeah,
all the way up.
Agreed. And what to your point, Dylan Cardwell did average 5.3 points per game, 3.7 rebounds per game, 1.6 blocks per game, and shot 40% from the 3-point line because he got green light, obviously. Shooting 58.7% from the free throw stripe. But Tank, here's the reality: is that Dylan Cardwell, it's an up and down roller coaster watching this young man play basketball. I mean, that's certainly the case. He was a hell of a lot better this year than he has been at any point to date in his Auburn career. But also, he is a glue guy, and having so much change within a program and so much turnover within a program. Hell, if you lose Janai Broome, there's really not a ton of there's no meaningful minutes outside of Dylan Cardwell that really know about the culture over multiple seasons. You've got guys like your Chad Baker Mazars, like your Chaney Johnsons that have been around it for a year. But Dylan Cardwell, nobody knows Bruce Pearl's expectations. Literally nobody on this team knows it as well as Dylan Cardwell to this point. So he brings back a lot. Your thoughts? I'm happy for Dylan. This is a place that he was meant to be, and I genuinely hope that if the NBA doesn't pan out, he finds himself in a role within Auburn Athletics, Auburn basketball, and in some kind of recruiting capacity. I think he'd be I genuinely think he'd be a great marketer and ambassador for the college. I'm sure there's a forever home for him at Auburn, and very, very excited to see the future. But right now, we get another year of him play basketball.
Yeah, I'm stoked, especially because watching his steady improvement throughout his career. Because he went from a freshman who made me and you both want to pull our hair out. Especially, I think year 2, especially because that was the year that we actually got to go on radio and talk about how much he wanted to make it pull out. And then he turned around, and then he just had streaks of games where he was like, oh, when you can see what Dylan Cardwell can be, the highlights, the monster dunks, I'm gonna make the entire jungle erupt in flames because it is just that chaotic whenever he is just playing lights out, especially that one. I remember it was like one of the times he made a 3 this year. It was like the moment where I was like, Auburn just won.
Yep.
Because that's just what Dylan Cardwell does. He's a spark. And whenever you're going to try to build this team around some new players getting in, you need a guy like Dylan Cardwell, who is also going to be joined alongside Chadwick Mazzara as those glue guys. And jury's still out on if Janai Broom's going to come back or not. I know people are trying to say that he might enter the portal. If Janai Broom's
To me, it's the draft or back at all.
NBA or Auburn. That's end of list. But if Auburn can manage to keep Janai Broom another year, I would highly doubt it happens because Janai Broom is going to make an NBA team very happy wherever they draft him at.
Especially if they get him in the second round. What a steal.
Oh, yeah. A huge steal. This team goes into the offseason and comes out of it better than they left.
Agree.
Because you're getting veteran leadership at the guard position. You're keeping all of your star-studded players that carried your offense most of the year, and Janai Broom and Chad Baker-Mazara. I mean, their only big loss is Jalen Williams, and you're going to be replacing him with Ja'Kai Howard coming right in, who we're going to miss. Jalen Williams is like out of nowhere, like I'm going to baptize you under the rim dunks, but I don't know if y'all been watching Ja'Kai Howard highlights. But if I were to presume Auburn ever witnessed their first ever their backboard getting shattered, Ja'Kai Howard might do that. He is just an absolutely ridiculous athlete. He reminds me of Devin Cambridge, dunk wise, but with a 3-point shot, which Devin Cambridge ended up getting one of those whenever he left Auburn, regardless. But it's gonna be fun watching this team next year and get ready for this team because you're keeping Chaney Johnson. You get John Conley. I just finished watching the Masters for you. If that helps any, that's fun. Thank you, John Lee. Thank you. But yeah, this team is so much better than it was last year. And I don't want to hype up a team before the season happens because that often leads to more heartbreak than it does anything else because Auburn softball did that to me this year. Auburn football does that to me every year and so on and so forth. Auburn baseball really did to me this year. But, I mean, both basketball squads are just recruiting out of their minds right now. And JP Pegues is going to be the star of this team.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there, and to your point about Auburn leaving this offseason better than they found it, specifically if you found, or particularly if you find yourself in possession of one Janai Broom yet again. I think that this team has a shift, and I mentioned the whole getting taller at the guard position, getting more experience at the guard position, having real diversity in terms of backgrounds and playing experience at the collegiate level. All those things are great. I like to think that you're moving toward maturity. And I say that because a lot of opportunities you can attest back that Auburn just dropped and blundered. It comes down to maturity. There's really only one guy, and I mean this in the most respectful way to everybody else on that floor. But last year there was really only 1 to 2 guys. I'll say 2 guys that approached every single game with an NBA professional mentality, and that is Janai Broom and Jalen Williams. And you kind of shift over to some guys that have played ball at a different level or that are entering their first year and have kind of a different skill set and a different mentality. You play under Bruce Pearl, who's an ultimate players coach, and look, that's a great thing. But your culture's got to be mature. And you've got to be, okay, great. It's awesome that Auburn's really good at basketball now and that this is a perennial thing. But now it's time to get serious. That we expect other people to treat us. If you're Auburn, you want other people to treat you as if you are one of the Kentuckys, the UNCs, the Dukes, the Kansases of the world, the UCLAs of the world. So you got to approach every game like that now, and that needs to be your mindset. Losing KD Johnson, and look, I love him to death. Appreciate everything he did. You lose KD Johnson, you lose Aiden Holloway, who didn't show a ton of maturity when he was handling the basketball, and then you've got you balance out losing KD Johnson by retaining Chad Baker-Mazara, but you also don't have them to feed off of each other in terms of letting each other make silly mistakes and kind of telling each other it's okay throughout the game, which happened a lot. Look, I'm not throwing blame at people, but guys, if you've got a players coach, that does mean that you've got to have people that can police each other and that can keep each other in check and remind each other that, look, we are operating as a professional basketball organization. Yes, we are a college basketball team, but we are going to handle this with professionalism. I love trash talk. I love getting amped up. I love what Dylan Cardwell brings to the floor. I love what Chad Baker-Mazara brings to the floor, but I also love what Janai Broom and what Jalen Williams brought to the floor last year and saying, look, guys, we can whoop their ass, lock in. Like we are more than talented enough to win every single game we play. And I think that Auburn shifts in that direction when you bring experience in. When you bring in a guy, I think Chaney Johnson goes about his business the same way. And the fact that just a grinder that was overlooked coming out of high school. And then you get a couple of young stars that were not overlooked coming out of high school, but they're going to be surrounded by these guys that were, and surrounded by these guys that really understand what it takes to get there. I think that's the shift, and that's when you get over that hump to where you are capable of not just physically winning every game, but also be able to mentally win every game. Because if you approach it with a professional mindset, you're going to win a whole lot more than you don't. And Auburn already does that. So if you pair that with treating it like a job, things get a hell of a lot better. I'm not trying to sound like my grandparents or anything, like, oh, I don't like when they get excited. No, that's not it at all. But I do like when somebody gets PO'd, when a teammate tells them, hey, check yourself, lock in, you're better than this. I do appreciate that, because that's doing it for the team. By all means, throw down a dunk, blow a kiss to the crowd. Dylan, go right ahead. By all means, like, I hope Ja'Kai Howard breaks the rim and just screams so loud that you can hear him from the rafters. Like, I want that emotion. I want emotion, but I also want professionalism in that. Okay, cool. Something bad happened. We don't let the lows get low. We do let the highs get up there, but we don't let the lows get low. We want to ride the momentum, but we're never going to ride that negative momentum. And I think you bring that in here, Dylan. So really, really excited to see where BP and company is come this November. I think it's a really big year for Bruce Pearl. It's way too early for us to talk about it. But I do think that it is an under the microscope kind of year. Not job security. Don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody to misinterpret that. But in terms of just really understanding what Auburn's ceiling is, I think that we will find out this year. And I think that time is now. Not that I ever want Bruce Pearl to go elsewhere. This is where he belongs. I truthfully mean that. But we will find out. The last thing you want is to get stuck into a perpetually good but not great situation. That's not where you want to be. Auburn fans hate that more than anyone. Trust me, I know. I live around it. Before we jump into what's going on, sorry, I got a little distracted there. I'm a groomsman a week from yesterday in one of my best friend's weddings. So shout out to Ellison's, and he just texted me about my tux, which I remembered to rent on time. Who's proud of me? Drop it in the chat. All right, before we get into Auburn women's basketball and their edition, they're getting better, Dylan. They're getting a lot better.
Oh my God.
And via the portal, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second with the addition of Talia Scott. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody, if you're hanging out here on the YouTube live stream, thank you guys so much. Make sure you drop all your comments, questions, concerns, strongly held beliefs, or demands. Also, make sure you are subscribed to the College Loop YouTube channel, that you've rung the bell so you can stay up to date with everything going on here at the College Loop Podcast, and that you share a show with a friend. Like this stream. I have the hiccups. This is Kentucky all over again, Dylan. This is horrible. I'm going to keep pushing through. If you're hanging out with us on a streaming platform, thank you guys so much. I know you guys are getting this show a day late, but don't worry. I promise if you guys have any questions, you can always drop it in any of our replies or mention us on anything on social medias. Dylan will see it. I will see it. We'll make sure we address it on the show. Thank you guys for hanging out. Give us 5 stars, thumbs up, whatever the highest rating is on your streaming platform of choice. Share the show with a friend so we can continue to grow the College Loop family. If you want to support the show beyond ways that just extend beyond the parameters of just like, subscribing, and ringing said bell, you can head over to thewarreport.com, pick up your very own College Loop Podcast, War Report Podcast Network, co-branded Feeling Lippy t-shirt. Comes in 5 different colorways, $25, only available at thewarreport.com. Once you pick up your very own shirt, make sure you use hashtag Feeling Lippy, that's Feeling without the G, on your social media platform of choice, and we will throw it up on the next show, next stream, whatever comes up next. That's hashtag Feeling Lippy, Feeling without the G. All right, jumping back into it with Auburn women's basketball, Dylan. Hallelujah. You lose a couple guards and you go gain a bucket, an absolute bucket. Tell me about Talia Scott.
Yeah, 5'9" freshman. I believe she was a freshman All-American in the SEC. 22 points, 3.3 rebounds, 1.5 assists. Shot 40% from the field last year for the Arkansas Razorbacks, a team that Auburn got their get back on in the SEC tournament. And then, of course, from the three-point line, she shot 30% from the three-point line. But she's also ranked as the number 16 overall player in the transfer portal from ESPN. She was a former 5-star in her recruiting class. And she actually went out and tweeted earlier saying that she wanted to help to elevate a program, not join an established one. We got something special in the making, War Damn Eagle.
That's the mentality. And you mentioned her being an absolute bucket in her freshman campaign within the conference at Arkansas. And Coach Jay, if this is a sign of things to come, guys, Auburn keeps getting better via the portal in women's basketball. I know that, I think it was Ike the other day tweeted, said buy stock now. It may have been earlier today, right?
Everyone's getting is tweeting out buy stock in Coach Jay.
I'm not saying that we started this trend because I'm not going to lay claim to this, but also at the same time, we've been preaching this. That Coach Jay is the correct answer for Auburn. She's got nothing but a successful track record, and her work via the portal has done nothing but back that. So very, very excited to see what Talia Scott can add. I think that Auburn needs to go get probably another forward and then another guard via the portal, which I'm not telling Coach Jay what to do. She's cooking on her own. It's not her fault that the NCAA selection committee is a bunch of bogus losers. And
whatever we tell her to do, believe me, she's probably already.
Yeah, look. Also, I'm just not the wizard here. She's the one who's cooking. I'm going to let her cook. I'm very, very excited to see where this lands. But I think this is huge in losing. Honestly, Scott Grayson, you go out and get someone who's averaging similar figures within the same conference. I think that is so valuable. You actually can just tangibly look and say we can sub in productivity. Does that make sense?
You lose a Scott and you gain another Scott back.
That's right, just without the hyphen in the the two-part last name. I think that's great though, because you can tangibly look and be like, all right, you know where this production went? We found it. Like this, here it is. This is your production. Now we're going to go find other pieces to take workload off of her, and we're going to build around that. And you're already building, and you've got plenty of players bought in. Very, very excited. So big news for Coach Jay and company. And then now let's get sad.
Well, before we do, let's stay happy for a little bit. Because I will say it does seem like you're getting what you're getting in Talia Scott, you were wanting to get in Sydney Shaw.
Right.
But you're getting that established.
Already polished.
Exactly. You're getting like the best version of what you wanted to expect out of Sydney Shaw a year earlier into their career.
I was about to say, with more time to develop and already polished.
So, yeah, I like how you said probably get one more guard to kind of play alongside Talia Scott. And, of course, you're going to need a forward because I believe Jemiah Mingo-Young is out of eligibility. Or at least I don't know how eligibility works anymore. For all I know, Cam Newton can come back to play football.
Theoretically should be out of eligibility.
I will say, fun fact, Dan Mullen started this Cam Newton stuff. That was all him.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I digress. We move forward. We move.
I'm just trying to put off the baseball conversation.
Dan Mullen getting mentioned on the show is crazy. We're going to get sad, and I'm going to be really quick. I'm just going to be honest. Dylan, there's just not a ton of good to come out of this. So Auburn baseball hosted Kentucky this weekend. And I think we said on Thursday, I think I said something effective. Things don't get better if the pitching doesn't get better. Offense didn't help on Friday, only putting up one run, but you scored a combined 14 runs on the weekend and allowed a combined 28. You blew a 7-0 lead on Sunday.
Saturday.
I'm sorry. I'm getting all my days mixed up.
It's one of those weird Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
I'm getting all my days mixed up. You blew a 7-0 lead on Saturday. It was not a 4-game series. You still got swept. This season's effectively, in my opinion, it's guttered. I don't know. I don't even know where to. I do know where to start. I don't know the answer. The start is blow up the pitching staff from the inside this offseason. And look, I'm not being a jackass. I wish all of these young men the most success in the world. I really do. But you don't have a single arm other than not named John Armstrong that's not getting blown up on a routine basis. And you can't win ball games that way. You can't. You get to go play host to Georgia Tech on Tuesday, who's liable to come in and drop 14 on your head. Their pitching's not been outstanding either, but their bats have been hotter than all get out, hotter than Alabama in August. And I don't even know that there is a positive spin zone, Dylan. You're staring down Mississippi State in Starkville, which if you win two of those games, I will be mind-boggled. You got to go to Baton Rouge, take on LSU, who's figuring stuff out for a 3-game set. Then you get to host Ole Miss, which sounds like it's great, but Ole Miss has finally figured themselves out. And you get Missouri on the road, I guess. So that's shining light because they've not been outstanding. But then you're liable to host Alabama for a 3-game set and get swept. And in between there, I mean, your remaining non-con opponents are Georgia Tech, Florida A&M, Georgia Tech, and Samford. I don't really have anything positive, so you might want to hop in the driver's seat for softball.
Yeah, there's not a lot of positive things go on.
I just don't like. There's no point in sitting here harping. If you guys have questions, that's what I'm here. We're here to talk about them. Happy to do it, but I don't think we should waste a ton of time. I don't think people want to hear it. Like I think that people have already thrown in the towel on baseball to this point this year, and they should. They should. Yeah, this team is cooked. And it's not that I don't think they're talented. It's not that I don't think Butch Thompson's a great coach. I just don't think it's the Tigers' year. And that sucks. That's just kind of the harsh reality. It's a tough conference, and you're young, and whatever's happening in those pitching meetings isn't working at all. As a matter of fact, it's going in the wrong direction. So maybe just digress. I don't know. Dylan, softball had a good weekend. Let's talk about it.
Softball had an absolute great weekend. Because as you know, LSU is very good on both sides of the diamond. Number 6 overall team in the country in softball. This weekend was played in Baton Rouge. They came out of the gun just absolutely on fire on the mound. They gave up, I believe, 4 combined runs all throughout the weekend. I believe that's right. 5 combined runs from the number 6 team. And of course, game 1 got up early, then went down 2-1. Then the 6th, 7th inning, of course, got those last 2 runs, and absolutely just shocked the world getting that first win. And then you're looking at on game 2, yet neither team could hit the ball this weekend. That was really the issue here. But LSU pitched a no-hitter on game 2, and of course, when you pitch a no-hitter, it usually means you're going to win. I don't think there's ever been someone to pitch a no-hitter who's lost, unless their team is their fielding is just terrible potentially, or a lot of walks. I guess walks would account for like the no-hitting. So
hey,
someone's just walking like 5 people in a row and losing a game. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, I mean it's happened many times, but like, hey, drawing walks is an art. Great question here. What is the future for softball post-Dean?
Bright. Very, very bright. Because we actually saw this weekend how this softball team can look. They took down the number 6 team in the country. I mean, look at of course game 3. This was the Annabelle Widra show-off game.
Masterclass.
Where she got the 2 RBIs that got Auburn the win. Actually caused 3 of the runs, and you also had Elkins still home. So it's bright. I don't know who exactly is going to be the favorite to be the coach.
I haven't heard a word, but
yeah, this is completely behind closed doors, because I think they need a home run higher.
We know what the ceiling is. It's a national championship. I'm not overreacting. It is a national championship. Auburn has been competing at a high level over the better course of the last 3 years, 2 to 3 years specifically. They've just been held back. And look, I am going to point fingers at Mickey Dean. We can do that now. And let him ride off into the sunset. I don't care. But you can look back and say, okay, if there's a culture problem and Auburn was still competing at the level they were at last year, yes, you lose players. And that's going to happen when there's a culture problem within the locker room. But if that's your only problem, and once the athletes have kind of had that alleviating, I guess, mentality that, okay, if I can hang around, if I really want to be at Auburn, we can do the damn thing next year, and we can get better next year. If you're living in that headspace and you start playing like he did like this past weekend, sky is the limit for Auburn softball. This team can go back to the College World Series. That is certainly on the table. John Conlon brings up a great point, and this is actually going to build into what I just said. Conlon just said, how excited / nervous are you for the next season in the conference when OU and Texas come in for softball and baseball? We'll start with the softball side. I'll circle back to baseball here in a second, Dylan. Oklahoma is the gold standard. They are the gold standard of college softball, and that is great for the conference. Texas, I would say, silver plus standard of college softball. They have been at the height of college softball. Those 2 programs specifically have been in the center focus, if you will, for the greater part of the last decade. I think this is fantastic. Does it make it harder to win the conference? Absolutely. Is it already the hardest conference in the country to win? In my opinion, yes. So I don't really know that the extra challenge hurts you. I actually just think that going down the road, it means the SEC hosts more regionals. I think this is huge. And I think that with the shift where we're at, going back to the previous question about Mickey Dean no longer being with this program after this season, is that you look at that outlook and go, okay, now we're going to be playing the best in the country in the regular season. That means when we get into the postseason, we're going to know what that looks like. We are going to know what it looks like to play the best teams when they're on their A game, because everyone's fighting to win a conference championship. You win the SEC championship, and you're going to be probably the favorite to win the national championship in college softball for the next several years. And it kind of has been outside of Oklahoma. You take Oklahoma away, this conference right here kicks ass in softball. There's no two ways about it. I love that aspect. Now, you want to talk about Texas and Oklahoma coming in baseball, that's a whole nother conversation. They add a lot to the table. They certainly do, Dylan. They don't make the conference harder. They just make it harder to win, if that makes sense. Like, this conference is already, and you can kind of say the same thing for softball. It's so up and down with who's good and who's not in baseball. Like, you can have your perennials, your Floridas, your typically Mississippi schools like to alternate out in and out.
You know, the last 3 years of Auburn baseball.
Yeah, correct. The talent comes through the SEC. It runs through the SEC in college baseball. Simple as that. The ACC actually a pretty close second and solid production of MLB talent. But I don't think it makes it more difficult to win the conference anyway, other than statistically. I do think it makes you more prepared for postseason play. And the same note, I think that when you take away football and you look at from an objective perspective of pretty much everything else, adding Oklahoma and Texas, with the given that they make football better, they do, makes the conference stronger as a whole. And I think baseball and softball shining examples. Let's not overlook swim and dive. Texas, how powerhouse. Let's look at men's and women's golf. Oklahoma, holy hell.
I think the only sport that their additions do not objectively like hurt Auburn's chances in the SEC would probably be men's basketball.
Correct.
Like, ultimately, I think that's like the only sport I can look at from top to bottom and be like, I don't think either one of these are at the level of
right now.
Right now, of course. Well, right, yeah, of course, because Texas has been there before. Yep. Oklahoma has been there before,
and I do think both of those teams, especially specifically Oklahoma and Porter Moser, have the guys that they need at the helm. That they will be back. I don't think there's a downside to Oklahoma and Texas jumping in this year, and I think that save softball and baseball though, Dylan. I think those are shining examples of, look, it's already hard to win a national championship. Just making it harder to win the SEC championship, I think, just preps more teams in the conference to be more successful in the postseason. I mean, you are going to sneak in 4 teams to a college World Series one of these days again. Like it's going to happen. Like that's just how this runs. And Colby Morris said our conference is basically the entire college football playoff these days. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that there are only good things with that. Only good things with the fact that there's that much talent. The revenue is better. We can support our student athletes better. We can support the conference better. You need probably the right guy at the commissioner position, but that's neither here nor there, and will probably never change. You're never going to like the guy in charge. It's just never going to happen. It's like you're always going to fundamentally disagree with the boss at some level in some capacity. That's just kind of how that works. But as far as the member schools, man, I'm pumped. I really am. Like, I think that come to terms with it, folks, because it's going to make the SEC better, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be really fun the first time Auburn softball travels to Norman. Results might not be the best, most fun thing you've ever seen, but they will come out of that series better. You almost want to play them at the beginning of the year, like at the beginning of the conference slate, and say, hey, now we know what it looks like, right?
And of course, you're going to have the storylines of this is the revenge game for the 2016 college softball World Series. Game that still breaks my heart to this day. Will never not break my heart. But I will say, I think the only rumored thing, just bring it back to softball for a second, the only rumored coach I've heard is Virginia Tech's coach. That's the only one I've heard. Dahmer. It looks French, but he currently has Virginia Tech looking very good this year. I think like 31-9. I do think that Auburn had to throw him a pretty hefty bag.
Pete Demore.
Do what?
That'd be pronounced Demore. I couldn't remember where the apostrophe was.
Yeah, but it'd be a great hire for Auburn in terms of getting a guy who is turning around Virginia Tech's program, because Auburn is in a state where they could both rebuild and reload. it's like a weird state because like they have the talent, but they just need the foundation. It's like we have this set, but we also need this to be set.
You need a core.
Exactly. And of course, you're going to be missing out on Maddie Pinta and Shelby Lowe next year and a few other girls across the team. They're going to be gone after this year. And of course, with the transfer portal, we don't know how many people are going to be kind of affected by Mickey Dean's departure and probably leave because Mickey Dean's not going to be there.
There'll be a handful.
It'll be a hand. I don't expect as much as that left last year. Probably 2 or maybe 2, I think the most. But you're definitely going to be missing Shelby Lowe and Maddie Pinta next year. The top 2, not top 2, but definitely some of the top pitchers Auburn's ever seen. Maddie Pinta probably being top 2, but not 2. You know what I mean?
Maddie Pinta number 1. Period.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Maddie Pinta is one of the greatest players in the history.
I will be interested to see how Mariah Pinta does because I think that she does. She is a pitcher, so I'll be interested to see how she plays out. Kind of to see how the Auburn family tree always plays out. Hopefully, I don't know if Mariah Pinta could ever live up to the standard that Maddie Pinta
I don't
has.
think that's plausible.
It'd be hard to do so, but if someone can, it's going to be someone in that Pinta bloodline. So
true.
I just softball. I am very excited for the future of Auburn softball. I will say I'm not going to be I might be a little low on next year just because I'm not going their like rebuild thing. But if they look like they reloaded, I mean,
you'll switch up quick.
The ceiling is the roof.
Agreed. 100%. Lots of I think there's a lot of positives in the future. I know that there's not a lot of positives in the present in terms of spring sports, just as a whole, outside of Auburn men's golf, who's absolutely tearing it up. Coyvin is him, bro. Oh my God, he's different. But I digress. I think there is, and I'm not just saying this to make people feel better and make sure that you hashtag, like, subscribe, and ring the bell, but I think there's a very bright 24-25 athletics year ahead. And I don't know that starts with football. I don't. I'm just not going to sit here and lie.
8 wins. I
don't know that it starts with football, but I do think there's a very exciting November to May awaiting, possibly November to June awaiting.
Auburn's
for Auburn Athletics. And I'm not counting out Auburn soccer. They tend to surprise me whenever I'm down on them the most. I think there's a lot of different pieces that could fall into the right places for a lot of these teams. And I've never been as optimistic about genuine improvement across the board as I have been going into the 24-25 academic year. Now you're probably sitting there going, Harrison, it is April. We've not even graduated these kids yet. I understand. I acknowledge that, but it's time to come to terms with it. Softball makes a little noise coming down the stretch. Awesome. Very excited. That's icing on the cake to me. But it is okay to look and say, like, let's just celebrate the seniors and celebrate the athletes that have busted their tails throughout the 23-24 athletics year to give their all for Auburn and have dedicated so much time. But also, let's get really, really excited for the young men and women who are prepared to embark on the 24-25 academic journey. Celebrate the freshmen that are coming in and making this big change, and celebrate the seniors that are doing it for the last time. Dylan, I'm going to wrap it up there. If you're good to wrap it up there.
I was about to just wrap up with the softball schedule. They have a UAB this week for like a midweek to get added in. They go to J&B. They stay at J&B to play Kentucky. Then they travel to Oxford to play Ole Miss, and then Alabama at home. And, of course, Maddie Pinta Day is May 4th. 10 wins in football, must be undefeated at home, increases the turnovers by a total of 8.
I want to start this feedback super quick by saying I genuinely appreciate how much support you give to the program, PBAS, and I want you to know that we appreciate you. But I also would like for you to know that I will drop my address in the chat. You will send me whatever drugs that you're on. And you can clip this. You can make fun of me. If Auburn goes 10-2 this year, I'm thrilled. I'm great. I'm happy for them. I really am. I'm happy for the student athletes. Let's reel it back in for a second here, and let's not. This is how we get hurt. This is how we get hurt, and that's not what you want here. We want everyone to be happy. We're here. We're very big advocates for mental health. This is not the way. But if that happens, then Dylan will probably come on the show with tears of joy. So that'll be something fun to look forward to.
I said, pray for 10, settle for 7, and be glad with 8.
Well said, Dylan. It's the
weird.
I love it.
He's not He's not necessarily wrong in that statement.
No. I'm
Auburn's
not.
due for
I
a
don't want.
2019 level.
I don't want anybody thinking that I'm wishing ill upon Auburn. I don't. I genuinely don't. I spent a lot of money to go to get my undergraduate from Auburn. Very, very proud alum. Very, very proud supporter, and very appreciative for everyone, all of the student athletes. They give their all, and that's not lost on me. However, I don't want to get hurt, so I'm gonna just go ahead and knock it down, and we'll ride on that roller coaster together as we seem to do every single year. And we'll just enjoy the ups and the downs and enjoy the friends we made along the way. But the number one way you can enjoy all of this, and the way that you can make sure that you witness if Auburn wins 10 games, Dylan quite possibly crying of tears of joy on live air, is to make sure you hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell right here on the College Loop podcast channel. Make sure you're hanging out with us on YouTube. Give us 5 stars. Excuse me, let me digress for a second. Make sure you like the video. Give us your thoughts and your feedback, your questions in the comment section right here on the YouTube video. Like the video, share the video with friends so they can keep up to date, catch them up to speed, get them part of the College Loop family. Let's keep growing this thing right here. If you're listening on a streaming platform, thank you so much. You guys are the absolute best, the rock stars, and we do not want you guys to ever feel like we don't appreciate you, because we certainly do. Dylan's nodding his head for those of you guys listening on the streaming platform. I love when you nod your head, even though they can't see you, but that's okay. Thank you guys. Give us 5 stars, thumbs up, whatever the highest rating is on your streaming platform of choice. Share the show with a friend so we can continue to grow the College Loop family. You guys are rock stars about that. If you guys want to continue to support the show in ways that go beyond just hitting like and subscribe, you can head over to thewarreport.com, pick up your very own College Loop podcast, War Report Podcast Network, co-branded Feeling Loopy. T-shirt comes in 5 different colorways. Most comfortable shirt you'll ever own, $25, only available at thewarreport.com. Use hashtag Feeling Loopy. That's feeling without the G. On your favorite social media platform, tag us in it. Use hashtag Feeling Loopy without the G, and we'll throw it up on the next show, next stream, whatever comes first. I'm going to take a deep breath. We're going to do this whole thing. We're going to get out of here. I'm telling you, I'm really training for one of those infomercials where we have to speak at a rate like this. If you or a loved one has been affected by Auburn Athletics, you know what I'm saying? That's my future. I'm good with this. Be well, gentlemen. Appreciate the objectivity. Thank you, P-Boss. You're the man, and or woman, and or whatever your preferred pronoun is. Please let me know. I'll be happy to use that. I digress. Dylan rolls his eyes. I don't know why. I'm going to move forward. I'm Harrison Tarr. Okay, good. Way to save your own butt there. I'm Harrison Tarr, at by Harrison Tarr on Instagram, on the Bird app, and Tar_15, at Tar_15 on TikTok. I've got all of my stuff there. Some of your good takes, your bad takes, everywhere in between. If you love golf, if you like playing golf, if you like watching stupid golf, check out That's One. That's numeral 1. So That's One Golf, _golf on Instagram. TikTok page will be launching soon. YouTube channel is up. Trailer is up. Working on editing yesterday's tournament, scramble tournament for the Masters. We had 10 guys, 5 teams of 2. Don't worry about where I placed. Dylan, let's get out of here.
I presume last. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there.
T4.
Out of 5 teams.
Yes.
There we go. Okay, so yeah, I'm Dylan Larck. I will take on Twitter, also on Instagram as well at Dylan Larck at DYLARCK. Also have a TikTok as well at Your Boy the Tank as well. If you're looking for me anywhere else, you can be right here on the College Loop podcast. Reach a like, comment, and subscribe. Leave your thoughts on JP Pegues and Talia Scott. And, of course, leave your thoughts on, go ahead and get ready for it. Which Auburn Tiger football player do you think is going to enter the portal on Tuesday when the portal opens back up? And, of course, we'll talk about all of that on the Tuesday show. We're also going to be previewing Auburn baseball again, and, of course, Auburn softball, who both of those on the complete opposite of the spectrum right now for both me and Tar. And, of course, if you're looking for us anywhere else, you have us right here on YouTube and, of course, on streaming platforms on Spotify, Podcast, and, of course, Amazon Music. And, of course, social media is on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, the works. All of those at The College Loop. Thank you all for tuning in to this live stream. Of course, don't forget we do this every Sunday at 6 o'clock Central. So don't be afraid to comment. But with all that being said, this has been, of course, The College Loop Podcast.
Love you guys.